Hey, what's up, lightboltjoe here. Today we are going to discuss the 2022 IFC original film, which I just watched on Hulu because they're kind of partnered, Rubicon. So this takes place in 2056. That's when we start. We end like 6, 7 years later. Uh, there's a space station. It's not the International Space Station because that's referred to as the obsolete antique. So this is a new space station. So there's this guy speaking Russian. There's this girl speaking German. There's people speaking English. And why is this toxic fog now encompassing planet Earth, right? While they're on the space station. There's an algae symbiosis um, project going on that's been going on for quite some time, since the air is so toxic prior to this toxic fog, just because of pollution and global warming, etc., that those in charge cared more about the economy than the air that they breathe. So the world is run by corporations now. It's not run by countries, no more states. It's just corporations, and because the air is so toxic in general, it's hard. You can't breathe without assistance. There's these air domes. So each country has their own air dome kind of a thing. Futuristic, post-apocalyptic in regards to right up to the apocalypse moment for this particular aspect. And then you have what happens when you have individuals up in the space station. There's only 3 of them left on a system that can run with only 3 individuals because the algae needs the carbon dioxide in order to properly cycle. So do you attempt to save those that are in bunkers on planet Earth that you can get in contact with? Those that are in bunkers are obviously the rich and powerful that, could afford their ticket kind of a thing. Do they deserve to live? Do they deserve a second chance? Do you say, the hell with this, you already killed the planet, we're going to save ourselves? What happens with that? It's a very interesting moral conundrum kind of story. It brings a lot of questions in regards to the planet as it is now. What can happen within the next 30 years? And will it happen? Will something to that extent happen within the next 30 years? At the end of the movie, though, we get a time jump of like 6, 7 years, and it's not actually stated how many years. We only know this because there's now a kid on the space station, because main character got pregnant during the first 5 weeks of, moral conundrum. Should we help? Should we not help? Do they deserve to be helped? And so the kid is now on the radio talking to other kids on Earth because the fog is now cleared. So it's been cycling through, and the southern hemisphere you can breathe now, but the northern hemisphere you still can't. Where did the fog come from? Why were these bunkers built in the first place? Well, obviously the main corporation that is controlling everything knew some kind of catastrophe was happening. That's why they sent the algae system up to space for testing. So it's interesting. It's a conversation starter. It's a very large what if scenario. The costuming was absolutely gorgeous. And there's these certain sweaters that Dimitri, the character Dimitri, wears, that is just very like grayscaled color blocked, and it has these like stripes on the, it's just wonderful. The space suits that they wear is just so aesthetically pleasing to look at. It's just such a wonderful design. I want to know the details. I want to know the craftsmanship. It was so gorgeous to look at, and I was like, man, these are awesome clothes. I can't wait / hope that these are things within the future. The score was just gorgeous, very tranquil. A lot of the visual effects were just stunning, very space shots and wide angle things, and it was very calm. It was very serene. It was very tranquil. I felt very sleepy watching this film. The problem with this film, there's plot flaws, and it's too long. It's too long. You have 3 people in a spaceship. It should not be an hour and 50 minutes long. It should do boom, 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 get from point A to point B to point C. The pacing was atrocious. It should have only been an hour and 30 minutes. Would have been fine. And the ending annoyed the hell out of me, because the entire movie, Dimitri, the main scientist, is saying the system can only survive, can only work with 3 individuals producing carbon dioxide. The system can only work with 3, can only work with 3, can only work with 3. Gavin winds up trying to kill himself the first time in a decompression chamber, which was very hard to watch, and then winds up succeeding in the unaliving himself in the second half. And so then there's only 2 of them. One of them is pregnant. How long can the system survive with only 2 individuals producing carbon dioxide? There's no months until that baby pops out. And then all of a sudden we get a quick frame flip, and it's Dimitri and the main girl, Hannah, and then they're chasing this 6, 7-year-old around the spaceship. And I'm like, first of all, where the hell did they get kid clothes on this spaceship? Second of all, how the hell are they still alive when the entire film was there's only 3 people minimum in order to make sure the system works. So how are they alive? How are they alive? There was far too many issues with that. Another thing which is very trivial, but Hannah and her daughter are sitting in, or son. I don't even know their gender. Hannah and their child. There you go. Are laying down, and their child is like looking at this drawing that they drew, and I'm looking at the drawing, and it's just a piece of paper with like kid hearts and flowers with markers and stuff. If this was 7 years later, where did the material come from? Were they just in a storage facility at some point? Where did this actually happen? Hang on, bug. I got it. Stupid little beetles keep flying everywhere. Got the bug. So, what was I saying? Oh, materials, kid clothes, how are they still alive? Makes absolutely no sense. Aside from the massive plot flaws of the ending, I overall liked it. I liked the what if. It was very horrifying in the sense of this is the world we live in. So I hated how much of how accurate it was to corporations deciding votes, corporations deciding what happens within states and the country in general. It's disgusting symmetry of real life to fictitious life. But I loved the technical aspects of it. I love the visuals, I love the cinematography, I love the score, I loved the costuming. So it's interesting now that I'm viewing things in its whole, that I'm not just viewing things based on the story. So as the story itself, no, right? The ending was just no, garbage fire. But everything else was great. So how do I rank this, right? Most people watch a film in regards to a story. Let me entertain myself within the duration of a time period, beginning, middle, end, what happens next, right? I don't do that anymore. I look at everything now. So overall, everything else, 8 out of the 10 parts were great. But the other 2 parts were just zeros. So the average drops down completely. Mixed. I'm mixed. I have mixed feelings about this. I don't know how to rate it. I don't need to rate it. I'm just verbally stating of these things. But yes, Rubicon 2022. It's on Hulu. Very interesting from a scientific point. Very interesting from a cataclysmic apocalyptic point. Very interesting in a moral ambiguity point. Very interesting. On to the next review. Mahalo.